The Dom Life Podcast presents Real Talk,
a BDSM Back to Basics mini-series intended for listeners 18 and older.
Our sexiness isn't going to be so sexy this episode.
No, I feel like pouting.
This is a total different kind of scene creation we're going to get into tonight.
I'm thinking maybe we should just change it up and forget about the P word.
No, we are talking scene creation punishments.
Punishments. They're rough. They're necessary, but they're so rough.
Yep, depending on your dynamic and how you set your relationship up depends on what type of punishments you have or don't have.
Right. I agree.
For our dynamic, we don't have a lot of punishments.
No.
You don't do anything that really requires a punishment. So it's good for me. Although sometimes I want to punish you for things just because sometimes punishments can be fun.
But those would be punishments.
Punishments. Hey.
I know.
Idea.
Good idea.
We may have another scene creation episode. Punishments. Now that's what we like to get into is punishments.
Punishments versus punishments.
That's right.
But
back to the basics.
Back to the basics.
Back
real
to the
talk.
basics. Real talk here. Let's talk punishments. Now a punishment is totally opposite of the sensual light to medium impact.
I really enjoyed that whole scene. So
I enjoyed afterwards.
I'm a little bit depressed today.
Well,
I don't know that we're going to have the same reaction doing a punishment.
No, we're not going to have the same reaction, but I can promise you that if you act up during this episode, there'll be a punishment to follow. So just keep that in mind.
I will not be acting up.
I know
but
you won't.
When we talk about punishments, why, Master Nick, do you think it is important to have punishments?
Well, it's just like real life. Everything you do may have a consequence to it. And the dynamics of dominant and submissives are totally different now than they was back in the traditional days. In the traditional days, punishments were one of the most important things. And a lot of people still follow the traditional style. And if that's your style, hey, I love you for it. And I'm not saying anything bad about anybody and how they do their dynamic and what works for them. Punishments are important to have that control, to have that dominant control of your submissive. If you have a submissive that is willing to give you 100% control and you allow them to act up or you allow them to break rules, you no longer have that control.
Right. I think that in addition to that, sometimes you need to correct behaviors when you are in a DS relationship where it's a power exchange. And so I'm giving up that control to you. And if I'm acting out, then there is an expectation that you are going to correct those behaviors.
And in the DS, or not really DS, in the BDSM lifestyle, you have your brats. And those type of people like to act up and like to be bratty because they like the punishments. They want that punishment. They crave it. So again, depending on what dynamic you're in, depends on how you set your punishments.
Right.
You are not a brat. You like to poke the bear every once in a while.
Just a little bit.
But it's not uncalled for. It's not acting up. You're not doing it out in public. You're not trying to humiliate me when you do it.
Yes, no.
It's all
never.
in fun and games. So with those, we choose punishments. There has been a few punishments in our relationship, but they are few and far between. So what we're going to do tonight, we are going to set up a scene creation using a cross for punishments.
Just to build on last week. So a cross makes sense because you explained it last week.
On a cross being sensual, right.
After you, Master Nick.
So your punishments...
Noah.
Keep on. Your punishment scene is almost a total 180 from the last scene that we talked about. There is nothing sensual in it. There is nothing intimate about it. You are using stern commands. You're using no emotions on your face. It's almost like a cold, blank, emotionless look that you're giving. And it's a kind of an intimidation thing as well, along with the dominance of it. But depending on, again, what rule was broken or what it was, we're going to go with a mild punishment here for this scene creation. And some things are similar. You're going to get naked.
Yes.
Absolutely going to get naked.
Right. But this time, instead of it being about the pleasure of having me naked, now I'm getting naked because you want to show the dominance, and it's embarrassing to receive a punishment and be naked.
Right. So that's about the only similarity from the last scene is you're going to be naked, but you will get naked. Again, you will have your play collar on for this scene. Anytime we do a scene, you have this play collar on. It will be on. It probably will be a little tighter this time. It's not going to be the loose where you can get a finger in between it and where it's not, but it will probably be a little tighter. Your wrist cuffs will probably be a little tighter. Your ankle cuffs will be a little tighter. And when I'm putting them on, it's a stern, quick movement. It's not a slow, sensual. I'm going to grab your hand. I'm going to pull it to me. It's going to be a quick pull. And I'm going to slap them on your wrist. Again, it's the stern, quick movements.
Are you angry at the time?
No.
Right.
You should never give out a punishment when you're angry. It's okay to be angry. If a rule is broken or something has happened, it is okay to be angry. It is okay to be upset. It is okay to be frustrated. What I will say is if you cannot control those emotions,
if you can't just hold them down and deal with the situation,
do not dish out a punishment because it can cross a line really quick. And it is one of our topics, how to be a good dominant. We're going to try to get into that a little bit. The very thin line between BDSM
and abuse.
So, again, if you are very good at controlling your emotions,
it's fine. But if you are angry,
take time.
Give it the time that you need to cool off and to handle it in a more less emotional, more mental state.
Yes. So good point there. That was a great point to catch on.
Okay, so now you've grabbed me.
So I've grabbed you. I've got your wrist cuffs on. I've got your ankle cuffs on. I've got your collar on a little bit tighter. I can feel it. I'm going to grab you. I'm going to pull you up. If you're sitting, I'm going to pull you up. I'm probably going to reach around the back of your head. I'm probably going to grab a handful of hair, and I am going to march you to the cross.
I'm not happy with this scene. It is not turning me on.
Going up on the cross this time, you're probably not going to have that slack from your wrist to the anchor point. It's probably going to be pulled tight. I will probably fasten your ankles to the cross.
So that I'm spread out
with
wide.
Little to no movement.
Yes, sir.
And depending on what type of punishment you do, we could use a leather strap. We could use rope. We could use bondage tape.
To restrain me to the cross,
your
my waist. Because that little bit of movement when you hit me allows me to absorb those hits a little bit better because I can move forward with it instead of back.
Move, right. But with you all the way up against the cross, you have nowhere to move. So again, depending on the severity, whether or not I would use your waist and strap it to there. But
Now, do I have my earbuds in?
you do not have your earbuds in. You are not going to be going in subspace and floating around for a little while. You are going
This
to
is
hear.
not fun.
You are going to hear everything that goes on. You are going to hear every conversation.
And I'm going to hear your words.
You are definitely going to hear my words. Once you are strapped to the cross and very little to no movement,
I'm stuck up here. What are we doing next?
I am probably reaching for a paddle.
Oh, those are, and I'm not warmed up.
You are not warmed up. There's going to be no flogging. There's not going to be any warming of the skin, any great sensations. It's going to be something stern, something hard, something that you will feel. Now, I will say, I will not be swinging that paddle as hard as I can. It is not, to me, it is not about inflicting pain. I want you to feel it. I want you to remember it. So it's going to hurt some.
Yes, sir.
But for me, it is not going in and just immediately wailing on you and inflicting an enormous amount of pain.
This, girls, ladies, is why I married him. Because he really believes this. And we love our relationship is that good because of it.
Right. And again, the few punishments you have had, I mean, the paddle,
they were more mental than physical.
Some of them were.
Yes.
But I will use the paddle, and again, the severity of it. I don't know, I say severity a lot in here, but again, it depends on what rule is broken as far as how many you get. If it's a rule that's minor, but you've broken this rule 3 or 4 times, then this is where you would escalate it to this type of scene. If it's a mild rule that you've broken that, you know, is kind of upset me a little bit, this is going to be the punishment. If it's something severe that you have done that has really caused a problem, then this would be exactly where I would start at.
Okay, so Master Nick, I'm on the cross and you are getting ready to hit me with the paddle. You're not going to do a full swing.
Correct.
Would you make me count?
Maybe.
Would you say anything to me while you're administering those?
Maybe.
Would you have me thank you for those?
Sometimes. And it's the situation. It's the scenario. It's what our dynamic is. We do have punishments in our contract, and some of our rules in our contract spell out a punishment you will get.
Yes, sir.
There is unwritten rules of just plain old respect and stuff like that is not in our contract that could be any kind of punishment.
Okay.
So every punishment could vary from time to time. You may have to count. You may have to thank me, or there may be, I'm explaining to you why I'm giving you this punishment.
Now, we are done with the punishment. You have hit me, say, 5 times for whatever, and you are taking me down from the cross. At this point, are you still in punishment mode, or do you turn into the Dom that cares for me and
just like any scene? There is one similarity to every scene, regardless of what scene it is. After any scene comes aftercare.
Yes, sir.
And
we didn't script this either. I'm asking these questions because I'm curious.
We've got our computers up and
nothing's on
there's
it,
really
really.
nothing there. But yes, regardless of what type of scene it is, whether it is a fun scene, a punishment scene, anything, there is still always aftercare. The punishment is done. It's been dealt with. It's over with.
And that is one of the things to get across. you cannot still be, and we didn't talk about this, but this is my personal feelings. You cannot still be mad at me because you have administered the punishment.
Correct.
So, as far as that goes, if I'm crying, if I'm upset, I should get comfort because I have released that
Yep.
to you, and now you're giving it back and saying, okay,
Right.
I've taken care of it. It's done.
That is the point where you forgive and forget.
Yes. Yes, sir.
A rule was broken, punishment was given. It's gone. It's what your slate is wiped clean. And from there on, now it's back to the aftercare and getting back to the dominant submissive relationship that we are building.
So, another question that I have, this was a good punishment scene, and we may talk about others in the future just because
Right.
we like these bite-sized topics. But my question is this. That was for doing something a little bit wrong.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens if I'm going to throw this out there. What happens if I'm talking with another Dom, texting? I came across him on the FetLife and I am chatting it up. And then I'm basically maybe asking for a task or something, and you catch this. How would you handle a situation in which that kind of extreme, way against contract, way against our lifestyle, way against our marriage that I've gone, that I'm reaching out to some other dominant? What would you do?
I feel my ears burning in my headphones right now.
No.
Okay, so question before I give my answer. Do I find out on my own that you are doing this? Or do you tell me that you are doing this?
Say I got my first task and I didn't do it, and I go to you and I tell you, Master Nick, I'm really sorry. I was speaking with somebody on a social media platform, and it was a dominant, and
So, okay, so you do tell me,
I'll tell you.
but that still goes against our contract, against our relationship and everything that we've built. So this would be a stern punishment, but on the flip side of that, and I don't know saying this because now it's going to be on air, but for me personally, I would feel that I was failing as your dominant. So although you would have broken a huge, huge rule in our relationship, I also would feel, I'm fidgeting here because I'm thinking about all this. I would feel at fault as well. Punishment. It would be a more personal, intimate punishment.
Yes, sir.
Strip you naked, lay you across my lap.
Yes, sir.
I would have questions that I would want answered. So I would ask a question. I would give you time to answer.
What if I didn't answer?
Then immediate hand to ass spanking
Until I speak?
until you answer.
Okay, I'm just checking.
So I would ask a question. You would answer. I would give any feelings or reasons, like, if you're not giving me attention, I would give you ways to get my attention if you felt I wasn't giving it. I would find ways around for the reason that you've done this to help our relationship with a spank on the ass with my hand.
Yes, sir.
And I would have these questions lined up.
I think that's
until I was done with my questions.
I think that's a really good personal punishment. It's again, body to body, the contact. I would say that the only thing that I could think of that would also help is once the punishment is done on this one, it's not necessarily done.
This one wouldn't
because
be
a
done.
relationship
We would be communication.
right. So journaling, maybe writing a journal.
Right.
I already write you notes in the morning,
Right.
but including one thing that you would.
And that would be the part of, after you answered, me trying to find another way for us to communicate better so that didn't happen.
Now, none of this has happened. I love Master Nick with all my heart, and I don't need a punishment for a supposition of something that may happen,
Right.
that may never happen. I mean, ever.
But that would be
It would
scene creation for punishment. See y'all next week.